Hello, everybody. My name is Advaith Vutukuru, and today I have someone who works at NASA, an amazing scientist, an aerospace engineer, Dr. Swati Mohan.
Thank you for having me here. I am honored to be here today with you.
Okay, so you want to start off with the questions?
Sure.
Okay, so my first question is, what inspired you in the start to become a aerospace engineer?
Most of my life, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I loved space. I got into it because I saw images of space when I watched my first Star Trek episode, and that was my first exposure into space. And it was beautiful, like the blues and purples, and the concept that there were places in the universe that we literally knew almost nothing about really sparked my curiosity. It wasn't until I took my first physics class that I started to put the pieces together of what it meant to be an engineer, and then from there, how to use my love of space and my desire to build things to be able to put them together into aerospace engineering and build things for the space program.
And this physics class you took in high school?
In high school, as a junior in high school.
Okay, so what was your most memorable or adventurous moment when you worked at NASA?
It would have to be the Perseverance landing. It was so poignant after working for that long. 8 years I worked on Perseverance, specifically for those 8 minutes that we worked together. So there was a immense relief when it finally happened, but there was also a bittersweet portion of it because the team had been together for 8 years working towards a single goal, and we knew that after that day we were all dispersing to other projects. So it was a little bit of a sad moment too, because we knew that we wouldn't get to work together as closely going forward.
It's not like you guys stay watching watching the thing on Mars, just keep you guys don't stay there and watch it, or
different people have different expertise. So I worked specifically primarily on the entry, descent, and landing system. So after we landed, our job was done. There was a whole nother team that dealt with surface operations and what it meant to drive the rover and how to collect science and work that with the scientists. And they're still working on Perseverance. They're still working with the scientists to actually collect the data and see the new interesting things and drive different places on Mars. But that wasn't my role on it, and that wasn't what I wanted to work on.
Okay.
So from my part, we finished at landing day, and then we went on to our next adventures.
Yeah, so Persevere, it basically takes pictures and studies Mars.
Not just takes pictures. So Perseverance is a mobile laboratory. So it has different instruments on board that actually take data in different ways. So it has ground penetrating radar called RIMFAX. It has several cameras on board that are at different resolutions. It also has a whole sampling system. So it has coring bits and drill samples, and it uses them in addition to certain instruments to understand the spectroscopy of the data that it collects. So it uses it all in conjunction, not just to collect the samples, but also understand the morphology of where it's going, what might have been happening. And the scientists use that data of the context and all the different instruments to understand what Mars was like way back in the past.
So do you still visit or check in on Perseverance from time to time?
I do. We just had our 5-year landing anniversary this week. So the whole team, everybody who worked on it, for the last 10 years got together and we got to celebrate.
So I know that your favorite famous line when Perseverance landed was touchdown, and
touchdown confirmed.
Yeah, in a calm voice.
Yeah.
It's what was you said it was bittersweet, but what emotions did you feel at that time?
Immense relief, a bit of awe, and just shock that we had finally done it. Leading up to that day, we had practiced that moment in mission control multiple times. So we'd gone through all the motions. We had, I'd said the line multiple times in all these practice sessions, but you say the line, and then after that, everyone was okay, cut, that's fine, we'll go on to the next thing. But on that day of landing, it became real when we got the first image back from Mars, because in all the practice sessions, the image that would come back would be the engineers in the mock-up, 2 thumbs up or some other type of fake image. But when we finally saw the image and the proof that Perseverance was on the ground, was safely on the ground. You could see the vista that we had prepped. That's when it became real of like, okay, it's not just ones and zeros that come back. Like you can actually see the proof that it's safe on the surface of Mars. Was just incredible.
So you stated that it took 8 years, first of all, and also you were shocked, kind of. So has anything ever went wrong in Perseverance? Like, were there any failed attempts?
Perseverance was actually a pretty smooth ride. There was definitely moments where we didn't know what was going to happen and we had to work through it. So launch day, about 15 minutes before launch, we had an earthquake in mission control at JPL. So I remember they're doing the countdown and suddenly the whole room starts shaking and all of us freeze. We're like, crap, what's going to happen? Like the building's going to go down. Is like something going to happen? And thankfully we had our facilitator, like he was running back up and down. He's like, okay, it's okay. And we had 10 minutes to spare before launch. The COVID pandemic hit, about 6 months before we were going to launch. And that was a real challenge. In all the previous JPL missions, the way that we operated spacecraft was to put all the best people in the room and trust that they could work out whatever needed to happen to keep the spacecraft safe. But with the pandemic, you could no longer do that, right? We weren't allowed to go on lab. We weren't allowed to be within 6 feet of each other. Suddenly, you couldn't have all the experts in the room, didn't know how to pick, who had to be there, when to say it was critical enough to come in person. Like, how do you balance the safety of the spacecraft versus the safety of the people now? Because now it's an actual personnel risk if they're coming in and getting exposed to each other. In the span of 3 months, we had to put in place a whole new set of procedures of what it meant to be on lab. How are we going to clean each station? How are we going to do shift work so that people could trade off and on, and then suddenly like one person getting sick didn't suddenly take out the entire ops team, because that would be bad. How could we maximize people working from home? Like, I mean, fundamentally, our spacecraft is in space. None of us are in person because the spacecraft is in space and we all have to talk from here. So trying to lean in on like, how much can we do from home to have the minimum people? What is the infrastructure we need? We had to figure all of that out in the span of 3 to 4 months so that by launch day, we were ready to launch. And thankfully we did, because if we hadn't made that window, it would have been another almost 2 years before we could have gone to Mars.
So like, can you explain a little more about that online? Because was it like, I know I've seen it in like the movies and stuff, like where it's like a big screen and you guys are on like your own computers, right? Like looking at it, right? But then how would that work online? Because like it would be hard. There'll be like lagging and all that. It's probably
there's a little bit of lag, but you relied on the internet that you had in the house, and then you logged into JPL's private network through home. That you have standard tools to do. You use your own internet, and then JPL has protocols of how from your own internet you can log into JPL's network through like using secure keys and IDs. You have to authenticate to log into JPL's network. Then when you're in JPL's network, you have to log in from there into the ops network, which is yet another secured thing. So when you log into the ops network, then you can directly create a virtual desktop of the machine that you're assigned in mission control. So now you're bringing up that same machine, and it has all of the data in that's coming down from the spacecraft in that view. So you basically could see the same things that you would see in mission control through your home.
Oh wow. Okay. So one of the
and then we had to be on like a Teams call or a Zoom call to be all on the same network, so we could talk to each other, so that we could say, I see this in the data, what do you see, and like how do we make decisions?
That would like honestly, like, when I had online school, right, everything would like lag a lot. That I feel like that would be like pretty difficult, right? I mean,
it was hard. I did actually get my own Wi-Fi repeater box in order to help with that, because now you're completely dependent on your own home internet, and some people's were good, some people's were not so good, and you didn't want to always if you're talking regularly to the spacecraft, you didn't want to rely on that. So we gave hotspots to people who had to dial in a lot and be on ops console shifts as a backup method.
Yeah. So I've heard about the 7 minutes of terror. So what was that like? What were your feelings during that?
So the 7 minutes of terror refers to the time it takes for the spacecraft from the top of the Martian atmosphere to get down to the surface of Mars.
Yeah.
Based on the entry velocity, that's how long it takes to slow down and to actually reach the surface. Now, that takes 7 minutes, but the time it takes for light to travel from Mars to Earth varies based on how far apart Mars and Earth are, and it can be anywhere from 11 to 12, 22 minutes.
Whoa.
So when we say 7 minutes of terror, it's because when we in mission control see the signal that the spacecraft has reached the top of the atmosphere, in actuality on Mars, it is on the ground, either completely successfully or as a big pile of rubbish on the ground, and we don't know. So we're waiting for that 7 minutes of terror to finish, because that's when we will know whether it succeeded or not. But we have absolutely no control over what is actually happening, because it has already happened. We are getting an 11-minute delay of what has already happened. So we have absolutely no ability to change the outcome. We are just waiting in terror to see whether it's working or not. That 7 minutes to go from the top of the atmosphere to get to the ground, 7 different spacecraft configurations. So pieces are flying off as you come down. Multiple pyrotechnic devices in order to do that. So explosions happening as it's coming down. 500,000 lines of code that have to go perfectly in order to get down to the ground safely. You're coming in at like 13,000 miles an hour. The surface of the heat shield heats up to close to the surface of the sun in terms of temperature, and you're going from 5.8 kilometers a second to 0 in 7 minutes.
That, like, honestly, like, just hearing
completely autonomous.
Yeah, like, just hearing about that seems like a, a suspense movie type of thing. Was it like, it was suspenseful, but like probably after that was probably like relieving,
It was extremely relieving after that, when we finally got to the end. There was a couple of moments in between that we saw things that should not have necessarily gone the way that they did. So momentary panics, but then every time a major milestone happened and we got through the next one, a little bit less tension as the time went on.
All right, so in articles like that, I saw that you were called the scientist with a bindi. So what was your, like, take on that?
It was actually really surprising to me, because I didn't wear the bindi to make any particular type of statement. I didn't wear it to for a cause or anything like that. And honestly, everybody in mission control, they didn't think twice about it either, because these are people that I'd worked with and they know who I was. To me, it was a representation of being prepared and being as put together as I could be on a day that was super important to me. So it was a choice. Like, I made sure I had it on when I left the house, just like I made sure my hair was combed and made sure that I was wearing the right polo and things like that. I think why it became such a big deal is because it was a very outward representation of who I was, how I was identifying myself. That in history, especially growing up in this country as an Indian American, hasn't always been easy to keep that portion and be strong enough to wear it proudly. There's so many societal pressures to fit in, to minimize the importance of it in an effort to fit in, that even for me, it took a while to work through those issues, to feel confident in myself enough and how I wanted to represent myself to be able to wear it. And it was, that journey for me really started in undergraduate. Like, in growing up, I wore it because my mom told me to wear it. Like, I tried to get out of it many, many times,
Yeah.
and she would run around, pull out a magic bindi packet from her purse and like always have it on hand to put on when whenever it fell off. And it was annoying. I didn't want to wear it because it was a very obvious reminder that you were different, and I got teased for it at school, and it makes you not want to stand out when you get teased for it. It wasn't until I got to undergrad and I was away from my family for the first time that I had the choice, without the family pressure, without someone constantly telling me you should do this, you need to do this, that I could choose for myself of who I wanted to be. And honestly, my first choice was, I was like, great, I don't have to wear anymore. I don't have to do this. Like, I can be whatever I wanted to be. And that was fine for a while, but a couple of months in, it felt like something was missing, and I couldn't identify what it was for a while. And it was only kind of by process of elimination of like trying to be honest with myself and working through different things and like talking to the friends that I had made and actually finding a friend group that also valued that, that I was able to get back into it and make the choice for myself that this was who I was and this was how I wanted to represent myself, and therefore I could choose to wear it when I wanted to wear it, and it was always my choice, and because I was choosing for myself, not because of someone was telling me I had to do it, or I felt obligated to, or it was expected of me, that it was coming from a place within me that it made it easier to do and part of who I was. It became part of my identity. So that day in Mission Control, nobody in Mission Control was surprised that I was wearing a bindi. Like they'd seen me for years, and just like other people were wearing their particular space memorabilia or their trinkets that they had brought from home. It was just one part of my identification that was accepted by everybody there. We had worked as a team for so long that they respected it and they accepted that portion of it. So it didn't feel awkward for me. It was a very comfortable place to go into doing it because I knew everyone there was going to be okay with it. So it was an afterthought. Like I didn't think it would blow up so much because I had gotten to a place that I had identified with it, and it becomes second nature at JPL, so no one even talked about it anymore. So then to suddenly see it on the world stage that it was such a big thing, it took me back to remembering how I got there, and it is a big thing because so many people haven't gotten there yet and been able to get to that point, that I was humbled by the outpouring of it and honored by some of the responses that came back that helped other people move through their own self-identification to get to a place that of like internal acceptance of who they were.
What's inspiring is that no matter what, you still have the bindi on. It's still part of your identity.
It's still part of my identity. It wasn't a one-off thing. It wasn't for that particular day. It's who I choose to be.
So ladies and gentlemen, if Miss Dr. Swati Mohan has taught us anything, it's that we should never give up and we should chase our dreams no matter what. Thank you for winding into the Advaith Vutukuru Show, and please come back for the next episode. Thank you so much.